Oops, I think my computer hit a glitch right there. So welcome to everybody. My name is Fernando Aguilar. I'm the Director of Contracts and Grants here at the Hispanic Federation. Just a couple of housekeeping items as we begin. This online webinar will be made available on the CCNSF fund.org website. Give us about 48 hours to get that up on our updates page of that site. Also, feel free to continue to use the chat function to ask questions as we move along. However, all those questions will be answered at the end if they aren't answered throughout this presentation. Okay. With me today to introduce themselves are my colleagues at, or my colleague at the Hispanic Federation, as well as members of the other partner organizations. With that, I'm going to pass that along to Canella to introduce herself, and she'll pass it along from there.
Hi, everyone. So nice to meet all of you and see all of you again if we've already met. I'm Canela Torres. I'm the grants manager at Hispanic Federation. And this is my second year helping out with this initiative. So I'm not as much of a veteran as Fernando, but I'm very excited. And I will pass it on to Ju.
I almost said good morning, but good afternoon, everybody. Really nice to see folks on here. I feel like I haven't seen many of you in maybe a few years. I'm Ju Han. I'm the Deputy Director at the Asian American Federation. Just want to acknowledge Daphne, our Associate Director of Programs on moderating the QA, as well as Leanne, who's just on the tech support on the back end. We are the technical assistance partner for the CCNSF initiative. I think this is our 9th year, so it's crazy that it's been almost a decade. Really glad that we continue to have this funding almost 10 years in. Pass it on to Francis.
Thank you very much, Ju, and good afternoon, folks. My name is Francis, pronouns he, him. I'm the Grants and Membership Coordinator at the Coalition for Asian American Children and Families. Very humbled and grateful to share this space with you all. This will be my first full year from start to finish overseeing CCNSF, considering that when I joined CACF in March, I was coming halfway through the recent fiscal year 22 of CCNSF, but so blessed and grateful to be with you all, and look forward to working with all of you. And I'll pass it to my colleague Ambrosia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ambrosia Kawi. I'm the she, they pronouns. I'm the Director of Contracts at CACF. I, too, am new to this fund, so this is my first year working with CCNSF. Really excited to see folks and become involved with the process. I'll go ahead and pass it to Yvonne.
Hi, my name is Yvonne. I've been with CCNSF for about 5 years now, so I'm looking forward to a great and exciting new year with this program. I'm the project coordinator at New York Urban League for this initiative. And so I guess I'll pass it back to Fernando.
Actually, sorry, can we pass it to Daphne and
sorry.
Leanne, which I should have passed to initially?
Ooh.
Daphne and Leanne, my team.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
My name is Daphne Tomaskula. I'm the Associate Director of Programs at the Asian American Federation. Excited to be here to see all of y'all. And I'll pass it to Leanne.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leanne. I'm helping with the technical part of this work, and I'm happy to be here. I'll pass it back to Fernando.
Thank you to all our partners and to all of you joining us again. Looks like there were some people that entered while we were going through introductions, so welcome. Let's see. The first thing we'll do here is we will launch some polling questions, about 3 polling questions. Just give it a moment to answer those. We just want to get a sense of who's in the room today and at what level they are in terms of knowledge about the CCNSF fund. So take a moment to answer those if you will, and we'll share the results shortly. In the meantime, I wanted to give a huge thanks to the Department of Youth and Community Development, DYCD, as well as City Council and City Council Finance, who are instrumental in all aspects of this grant cycle, and without them, this grant would not be possible.
Just like 5 more seconds before we end the polls and share results.
Oh, okay. Thank you for sharing those results, Ju. Looks like Staten Island's still lagging on that beautiful borough. But looks like Manhattan has the let's see, the strongest response today, followed by Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx. Okay. Looks like we have to do some more outreach, and we know where we have to do more outreach. But we're happy to have this spread out amongst the 4 boroughs, at least. And then for first-time applicants, okay, looks like there is a quarter of first-time applicants this afternoon. Some previous awardees, consultants, welcome, and other. Okay, first-time applicants, hopefully we can get to all of, hopefully we cover anything that might be of question to you. And of course, we will have a Q&A at the end of this, and you can feel free to reach out to any of the partners. Our contact information is on our website. And then oh, wow, this is amazing. Looks like 100% of us have a organizational operating budget of 2 million or less. So potentially all you folks will be eligible to apply this year. So thank you for that. The 3 partners who introduced themselves, myself included, are part of administrating the grants. Our 4th partner, Asian American Federation, provides the technical assistance to all that apply. These grants that are administered, of course, follow under capacity building, which is an area often overlooked by our funders. Next slide, perfect. Thank you, Ju, for the next slide. And now, I'm sorry, the previous slide. Yep, thanks. Now just like a little background, the fund began in 2015, initially providing 80 awards during its inaugural year, and since has supported over 530 different capacity building projects. With an amount this year of 3.7 million. While that is a healthy amount, we continue rigorously, all of it, to continue advocating for increased funding each. We rely on the help of you folks advocating on your ends, as well as us partners, okay? These capacity building grants, so it's primarily about improving efficiency within your organization so that you can do more with the resources that you already have, to expand the work you do. And we want to make you folks better equipped with the resources you need and the skill building within your organizations that you need, so that you can serve your communities better with more robust services, greater services, increased services. That was the initial thought when this grant was being developed, and hence it was born. And continues. We're heading in, as Ju said, into its 9th year. So really honored to be a part of that. Again, feel free to use the chat function if any questions come up, and we'll answer the Qs at the end. And Ju, I'm going to hand it off to you now.
Great, thanks, Fernando. So sounds like 60% of the folks on here have received an award in the past, so you may be very familiar already. But for some of the new folks or those who need a refresher, some things that we think about as we think about eligibility, making sure obviously that you're registered with the city. A lot of folks, if you've already have gotten this award or you have other city contracts, this is something that you'll already be current in Passport Accelerator. You're registered with the state's Charities Bureau. You've been a 501c3 for at least 2 years. So this is important because I know that oftentimes, especially during COVID, we saw this a lot. There were a lot of new 501c3s established, but if you don't have at least 2 years of service since you got your 501c3, you're not eligible. But we have had groups that have come to these briefings and then applied in the future when they, met the 2-year minimum operation mark and was able to also apply for funding. You have to be an organization that's New York City based. I do know that somebody said that they have colleagues on here from upstate New York. So if you are from upstate, as much as we know that there's capacity building needs in upstate, this is because this is funded by city councils only for organizations that are based here in the city, and that you are a direct services organization serving at least 75% or more of New York City residents, that you're serving more than 51% or more of people of color, and you've done some track record of outreaching to communities of color for your leadership levels. One good thing that we highlight all the time, but it looks like folks are used to this, this hard kind of parameters, which is you have to have an organizational budget of 150,000 to 2 million to be eligible to apply. So some people will say, do you mean my current budget? Do you mean, so we'll be looking at your Form 990. So whatever that form, your most recently filed Form 990 says is your organizational budget. If you're between 150,000 to 2 million, you're good. But if you have specific questions about that and the administrating partner that you want to apply to, you can always reach out to them and ask them. We want to know that you're obviously committed to equal employment opportunities, your culturally competent services. However, we know a lot of really great groups doing work that utilize fiscal sponsors. And if you are a group that does have a fiscal sponsor, you unfortunately are not eligible to apply for this funding, which I know does apply to some of the groups that we work with. And I know for that reason, some groups have tried to moved on from fiscal sponsor to bringing their financial operations in-house. Again, as we're going along, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. And then at the end, we will address your questions at the very end. These are eligible capacity building projects that fall into one of these, I believe, 7 categories. Management information systems, setting that up, designing and developing it, financial management and planning, evaluation and outcome system, developing a system for that, leadership development, could be new program planning and development, strategy and org dev, or collaboration and strategic alliances. And some examples of those are some groups that have applied in the past to set up financial systems like QuickBooks for themselves, Salesforce as a system. Some have done succession planning. I think one thing that we want to emphasize is this is capacity building funding. So you cannot apply for program funding. If you're like, I had this great idea to launch this youth program, the planning of it, the development of it, something that you potentially could apply for, but not the actual implementation of programs. That's not what this funding opportunity is for. And if you are a group, if you're an organization that has applied in the past and received funding, you cannot apply for a project that you've already received funding for. So if you've already received funding for a project that fell underneath leadership development, but you're like, hey, actually, I have another project completely different that falls underneath leadership development, that project is not eligible. It has to be an entirely new type of or project type that you're applying for that you haven't received funding for. So some people have said, hey, I got funding in the past to do capacity building for this one particular area. We want to continue to build on that. If it's in the same bucket, again, not eligible. Has to be an entirely new type of project that you haven't received funding for in the past. Something really important to note is that if you are an organization that has a budget between $150,000 to $500,000, you can request up to $35,000. That is the cap. You can request less than that, but the maximum that you can ask for is $35,000. However, if you have a budget $1 above $500,000 up to $2 million, you can apply for up to $45,000. Again, you can apply for less than that, but up to a cap of $45,000. I am now going to pass it on to CACF. Francis?
Thank you very much, Ju. Good afternoon, folks. So in terms of the applications, so given the poll that was just taken earlier, so it seems like we have folks who are familiar with our current application system. But for those who are applying for the first time, this is just a good reiteration. So our applications are officially live as of October 13th, and they are completely online. So for folks who already are familiar with the system, it's still going to be online applications. But for those who may have applied in the past, especially since CCNSF is in its 9th year of existence, we are no longer accepting paper submissions. So given the updates with our applications, if you've had a chance to look at the hyperlink that's listed in the slide, or if you've just been able to check out the CCNSF website since we officially went live 2 weeks ago, so you may notice a bit of an update, a bit of a change. So the application format is still the same in terms of the types of questions and documents that you'll need to upload. Those questions and the format of the application is still the same. In terms of where to apply to, so based on the large percentage of community members that your organization currently serves, we do ask that you apply to one of the CCNSF partners. So on the link, you probably see CACF's, a link for CACF, a link for Hispanic Federation, and a link for New York Urban League. So if your organization primarily serves the AAPI community, then of course you would click on the CACF link. If your organization primarily serves the Hispanic community, you would click on the Hispanic Federation link. And if your organization primarily serves the Black community, then you would click on the New York Urban League. We do acknowledge, yes, that there are organizations that serve multiple communities, but just to lessen the confusion and just to make the process a little bit more straightforward, it's best that you click on one of the partner links that, again, that you feel your organization clearly aligns with and with the population that you serve. It's also important too that, yes, with it's one organization for one application. If you submit multiple applications to multiple partners, then your application will be ineligible. Excuse me, for any other questions regarding the application as you're navigating through that, plus the RFA, again, please reach out to us. Again, we'll take questions at the end, but that's just in terms of the latest update with our application system. So now I'll pass it over to Yvonne at New York Urban League, who will talk a little bit more about the vetting process.
Yvonne, you're muted.
Sorry. So good afternoon, everyone, again. So once we receive your application and everything is done, once your organization is chosen or as a potential applicant, we have city council vetting. Now, once the vetting process consists of the following things: Lexis comprehensive business report search, which includes related entities, principals, tax warrants, liens, workers' compensation violations, addresses. So what they're saying is, please check your organization to see that things are in line. Sometimes you have tax liens, tax warrants that you may not even be aware of. So please go online and check to make sure everything is clear, because if any of these things come up, during the process, then you are going to be disqualified. Okay, we have Lexis News article search for negative news, IRS database search, tax exempt status, New York State Department of State Corporations database, New York State's tax warrant notice database. They search through New York City Department of Buildings for your location and occupancy statuses. The New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene for group child care services, daycare center inspections. All of these things must be up to par when you send in your application. Review of use of funds to ensure that monies are not used in any prohibited manner. Conflicts of interest forms must be in line. Cherries exemptions, if applicable, and authorization forms review. So all of these things are included in the vetting process. Please make sure that your organization is clear of all of these things. Next slide. Okay, city council vetting for consultants. Now, one thing a lot of you applicants ask is, oh, if we used the consultant the year before, then this year when we use the consultant, we don't have to worry because this consultant has already been vetted. No, no, no. No matter what consultant you choose, they must be vetted, re-vetted, may I say. You have to have your consultants vetted each and every year. So you must choose a consultant, and we would hope that you would choose your consultant early in the application process, because we don't want to be held up later with your grant or anything because of the lack of your consultants with getting you started quickly ahead on your projects. So to vet consultants, the Lexis Comprehensive Business Report Search, same thing, principals, tax warrants, liens, workers' compensation violations, whatever. Lexis News article search, searches for negative news, registration with the State Attorney General's office, Google and social media information and conflict of interest forms. All of these things, when you have a consultant, please make sure that they are clear, or check with your consultant, and please make sure everything is in order. I know we have sometimes consultants with the same name. Sometimes they'll ask you for additional information because they want to be sure that they have the right person. So please keep these things in mind when you're searching for your consultant, and get them done as soon as possible so that you will not be held up from starting your project. Next slide. I think it goes to Fernanda at Hispanic Federation, the budget.
Thank you, Yvonne. And we see a bunch of questions coming in about consultants, and we'll get those questions answered at the end. Let's get to the budget. Very simple, very straightforward, but really want to make sure that you folks are aware, especially the first-time applicants, of the budget caps for each line. I'm not going to, read the PowerPoint off because it's very simply on your salaries and wages line, which is the first line. Oh, you know what? Let's back up to what you said. So if you're an organization that's 500,000 to 1 million. I'm sorry, up to 500,000. If you're an organization from 150,000 to up to 500,000, you can apply for up to $35,000 through CCNSF. So let's take an example of an organization that's of requesting 35,000. So the first, they're looking at their salaries and wages line, and the cap is at 30%. So 30% of 35,000 is 10,500. So they can apply on that line up to 10,500. The fringe line, be careful there because it's not 15% of that 35,000, it's 15% of the salary line. So if we were putting that 10,500 in the salary and wages line, it would be 15,000 of that, which is what, like 1,500. Then let's see, the next line is our computer and hardware software expenses line. That's also capped at 30%. Now, I'm sorry, yep, it's capped at 30%. So it's 30% of the full of that 35,000 ask. What you're not seeing on this PowerPoint, which I'm surprised, is that, and I don't know if it's on the next slide, Ju. Oh, no, it's not. So go back up. So there's the 60% consultant line, which you'll see on the application. You'll see the consultant line, and you'll see that there's a cap on the consultant line, which is of 60%. So if you have that 35,000 ask, and you are looking to allocate the most, which we hope on that consultant line to get the most bang out of your buck, out of our buck at first, you are looking at putting up to $21,000 on that consultant line. Okay. Well, what it is that computer, hardware, and software line is actually part of our OTPS line. The OTPS line is not capped per se, but it's the computer software that's capped under that OTPS category. Now that is capped at so don't go over and spending your on your hardware and software over 30% of that total amount. There is an example below of the budget template, which is filled out. If you want to take us to the next page, see here you can see the line items pretty clearly. This is a mock-up of a template that we created just to make things just more visibly easy for everybody to see. And if you scroll down, next slide as well, it breaks down those caps. And then the next slide, it gives us, we did a mock-up for folks, so you could see an organization that was applying and what they put on their categories and their lines. Just an example. Now, this template is available on our website. If you go to the website, on the first page, the little hamburger on the right, you click on frequently asked questions and resources, and it'll take you to this blank budget template. We have this here now so that you can just do your own account. It's for your own organizational purposes to keep you organized. The application itself is much more straightforward in asking you literally, what's your fringe? It tells you the cap, what's the fringe? Right below it, it asks for your narrative on what that fringe is going to be spent on. Please be precise on what it's going to be spent on, your SUI, your FICA, your health, because that'll be important if you're awarded, and come reporting. We won't get to that now, but please be precise on that, as precise as possible. Again, this mock-up gives you a bit more information on just simply what we're asking. Again, use your budget as a roadmap. If you are awarded, you will follow this. If you are awarded, you'll be perhaps approved for the full amount. There might be some different revisions we'll need you to make with the budget. If we have you do that, then either way, whatever budget is approved, You'll use that as a roadmap in order to not go over any of those caps. If there's changes that need to be made, we'll have to discuss that later. Usually not the case, but of course that comes up every now and again. And again, this is a sample of a 35,000 ask, and you would just use the same kind of rules will apply for a $45,000 ask or upwards up to $45,000. Okay, let me see if I covered everything on that. Yep, I think we've got that covered. We could always go back to that in the Q&A if need be, but Ju, I'll let you take over from here.
Thanks, Fernando. Fernando mentioned the 60% cap on the consultant that you may decide to engage for your project. So I think we left it for the consultant section, but that's important to note for the budget overall, that if you are planning to use a consultant, while you're not required to use a consultant, the thought behind this initiative, this funding, is that if you already had internal capacity to do the things that you want to do, you would have already done it. So the idea is that likely you are going to try to bring in outside expertise to help you with the capacity building project that you're proposing. So that's why we allow room for that. But we do want to make sure that your total award is not 60% of it. If the consultant line does not exceed 60% of your total award, whether it's with a for-profit or a nonprofit consultant. And just to be really clear, I think most folks would understand this. This is common sense, but consultants can't be existing staff, can't be current or former interns or family relatives of staff or board members for obvious reasons. And the consultant has to be, Yvonne mentioned this early on, properly interviewed, the references checked. While it's not required that you have your consultant identified at the time that you submit your application, it's strongly recommended only because we know that the consultant vetting process can take a while. So we've seen during the review phase where applications may get held up because organizations have submitted for a consultant to engage a consultant, never identify the consultant. They're scrambling to find the consultant and vet that consultant, and then it kind of holds up the entire process. It can actually be sort of a lengthy process. So while you're not required, it's highly recommended that you do identify a consultant at the time of your application, just to make sure that you're not slowing down your application getting considered. And making sure to all proposed consultants, you have to have current documentation that you are going to submit for the current year, even if they've been used in past years for different NSF projects. Everything has to be current. The one thing I want to note is the idea behind this fund too is that we want to be able to also make sure that for capacity building projects that you are engaging consultants of color, a wide variety of consultants are being used. So there is a cap across the entire fund. So all administrating partners of a nonprofit consultant can only be maxed out as 75,000 across Hispanic Federation applicants, New York Urban League, and CACF's applicants. So, and your consultant should know, right? A lot of these consultants who do go in for some of these NSF projects are familiar. So they should be able to keep track of if they've submitted for other applicants, that again, they're not putting in for 200,000, because we're going to be considering all of that during the review process, talking with each other, making sure that the nonprofit consultant is not maxing out beyond 75,000 across the entire fund. And then if it's for a for-profit consultant, not maxing out beyond $50,000 across the entire fund. So that's something that we will be closely looking at. And you should ask your consultant if you decide to engage somebody, saying, have you put in for other applicants? And just making sure again, that you're not jeopardizing necessarily your chances because they've submitted it for way over 75 or 50. And we've said this before, but if they've already been vetted for past NSF projects, they will still need to be vetted this current year. There are no consultants that are recommended or approved by DYCD, City Council, or us, right? There are consultants who may have been on NSF projects in the past. Does not mean that they are being endorsed in any shape or form by any of the partners or City Council. Similar to what we talked about the applicant organizations, making sure that you submit the proper documentation. Consultants are going to be asked to, when you do apply and submit your proposals, they do have to submit their resumes, their EIN or social security number, contact info, conflict of interest disclosure form, client list, description for why this consultant is the appropriate one or selection for this particular project. Someone asked in the chat somewhere, do they have to be US based? Yes, but also if you're going to use, consultants outside of New York, while that's not mandatory, you want to think about time zone as well, right? We had a project where one applicant or grantee didn't get to finish their project because they chose a consultant who was in California. The time difference made it very hard, and that very truncated that contract period to be able to complete their project. And they, because of the time difference, couldn't make all their schedules align. So you also want to think through, as you think about your rationale for choosing certain consultants, why you're choosing that consultant. If they happen to be farther away, if they're not New York based, to make sure that in terms of logistics, that's going to work for you for whoever you choose. So there's a question from Susan around, is there a cap for consultants, including CRE and cost effective? Yes, CRE and cost effective are considered nonprofit consultants, and they would be held to the same caps that we discussed, the 75,000 across the entire fund. So if they're submitting with different applicants for different projects, we're going to be looking at, hey, if we've already chosen projects where CRE max out of 75, we're not going to be accepting applicants that have this CRE as the same consultant, because it would be beyond the 75. So something to think about and to ask your consultant if you decide to choose one of the more popular ones or ones frequently used among our nonprofit community. NSF Timeline, I think, is Ambrosia from CCNSF.
Yep, thank you, Ju. So as Francis mentioned earlier, the request for applications is already live on the CCNSF website. You'll be able to find the application links for all the partners there. The community briefings are happening right now. This is the first one. And we also have one scheduled for Wednesday and another one on November 2nd, which is next week, Wednesday. An incredibly critical date is November 14th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. That's when all of the applications are due. This is a really strict deadline. So make sure that you're reaching out to us if you have any questions on your application. We're going to be very available until that date. But very important to meet that deadline. As a reminder, this is the second year that the application is online, so we recommend that you submit your application or aim to submit your application a couple days beforehand to help build in any time for technological errors. If anything comes up, at least you have some buffer time before that deadline. Once all of the applications are submitted, partners will convene allocation committees, which will review the applications in December and will announce awards as soon as possible after that. There's no specific timeline for award announcements because, as we discussed earlier, there's a pretty large component for DYCD. They have to vet both the applications and the consultants, so there will be some time around that. But as soon as all of the awards are approved by DYCD, we'll go ahead and announce whether or not you've received that. The orientation for folks who received the awards will be in January, and interim and final reporting will be in April and July, respectively. Another really critical date is June 30th, 2023. All of your funds must be expended by that date. This is government funding and comes from City Council, so these funds are under that jurisdiction. So we'll be working with you throughout the contract period to make sure that you're spending down and help troubleshoot anything, but all funds expended by June 30th, which is the end of the city fiscal year. Training sessions will also be happening throughout the winter and spring. With that, I'll pass it to Yvonne.
Yvonne, you're muted.
Okay, so resources. Okay, in order to access all of our information, you must go to www.ccnsffund.org. That is the webpage. and you will find the following. You will find frequently asked questions, budget samples. The consultants list may not be there. That's only by request. And also you'll have a recording of the briefings, which will be located on our website. Now, this is a good source of information. We have past awardees. We have all types of resources, contact information, and any other thing that you may need to know in regard to this application. And anything that you don't know, as I say, the contact information is there for each and every one of the partners, and you may reach out to each and every one of us for any additional information necessary. Okay, next slide. Questions?
And I just wanted to add that on the application, just to expand a little on what you said. So we are asking that consultants are listed on our applications because just to get the ball rolling with vetting, because it's such a process. If you don't have your consultant nailed down now, you can submit. Submit up to 3 different consultants,
Right.
and so we can begin the vetting process on our end, and then you can do your due diligence with them, and so then there won't be any issue of which one you choose, barring every one of those were cleared on our end. So be prepared to submit those with the application.
Yes.
And as Yvonne said, we are at our Q&A session now. If we would like to answer some of the questions that might not have been covered in the chat.
Daphne's got a list, Fernando, so she can take us through.
Fantastic.
Awesome. So the first question is, do the budgets that determine awards have to be reflected in 990? Our budget doubled in 2022, but our 990 is for 2021.
Oh,
You could submit the 2021. That would be it. That would be, what do you think, Yvonne?
well, the award reflects the 990 from the previous year. So if they submit that 990, it should be fine. But if they submit the new 990 from the present year, they will be disqualified.
Yeah. That is true.
It is what it is.
It just maybe just depends on how far that jump was. We are on the side of the organizations and the smaller
Right.
organizations. We know that a lot of you, as some of us did, made some jumps during COVID, but that's not to say that we are still not struggling. That those funds are earmarked and are restricted, and because of those jumps, you might need this grant even more. We are actually advocating for that threshold of that 2 million to be increased. That's been an ongoing advocacy effort on our part. Off the record, if 2021 is your most recent that you want to submit, then that's a call that your organization will need to make.
Right.
I kind of read it the other way, and I guess the person who asked that question can speak up, but we've had in the past people say, hey, my budget used to be really tiny before, and actually now I do meet the 150,000 threshold with the current year's budget, but with the 2021 might not. So if that's the case, what would you say to that?
Apply.
Apply. That's what we're saying. Just apply using the 2021 budget.
Or the 2022.
The 22, whichever one.
Yeah.
Meets the criteria.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that
it's a chance, because if they vet it and they see it, then that's different. But if they don't and they go with the budget, then you're fine.
Yeah, it's definitely, something that each organization will have to kind of
Fend for themselves.
determine.
Right.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. So we've got a lot of questions on the consultant list. So how
Right.
can folks get a copy of the consultant list?
Reach out to us individually. We can send that. The consultant list is we're working on revamping it now. It's because of COVID, we haven't been able to focus on getting that to as a robust a list as we want, because we've gone so quickly through 2 years. As we all know, like just, so busy and time went by so quickly. And there is a new column category that we're adding to that. But you can email whatever whatever partner you're looking to apply to, either New York Urban League, HF, or CACF. I would reach out to that contact person there and ask for that consultant list.
And just remember that the consultant list, although they are on this list, we're not recommending anyone to anybody. You just look at the list and you choose who you want. The next thing is they still have to be vetted. Just because they're on that list does not mean that they're vetted. Whomever you choose, you have to have them vetted. And no, you are not limited to selecting a consultant from that list. That's just a list of people that we have used in the past, or organizations have used in the past. You may choose your own consultant. Okay.
Awesome. And
Okay.
another question about consultants. So someone said, sounds like the consultants must be companies. Can consultants be an individual? If so, what registration is needed with the Attorney General's office?
Yep, they can.
Okay.
Consultants can be individuals. They'll
Mhm.
just be submitting their social security number, their resume, or their company profile. I think we ask for a link to their website or some
Right.
sort of link to an online, handle, or something that would tell more about them. What else?
Well, in the community briefing, in the recording that you get, if you go back and look at the slide, it will tell you all the information necessary. Even in the Q&A part of the website, it will give you exactly what credentials and documents you need for your consultants. Also in the application as well.
Yeah, and if that doesn't give you enough, then you can reach out to
Then
us
call us.
individually. Yeah, reach out to us individually, and just
Call us.
if you want to just double check on your consultant, because
Right.
We understand that a lot of these a lot of our organizations are niche organizations that deal with communities of color in niche areas, and that there's consultants that may do work as having been in that industry for very long and have the expertise, but may not be their own LLCs or entities, but that have the institutional knowledge that you require. So we haven't seen an issue with that. But again, they will need to submit their social security number and those details we mentioned.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, and then another question. So given that COVID happened and upended so much, was there any discussion on considering second applications for certain categories, such as strategy and organizational development?
Mm-mm.
It's such a broad category, and I often tell first applicants, since there's a lot of first applicants on this community briefing today, that be careful with using that one, so soon, because it's one of the broadest
Right.
categories, and it, once it's gone, it's gone. No, there hasn't been discussion on a second round of that. Perhaps you can, you know, finesse your project into one of the other
Other
categories.
categories,
Yeah, that's, you know, as
because
a grant writer, I've seen you all writing and it is very creative, and I've seen you all make it work into other categories. And I would just really try to work it that way, you know, because
So we just have a few more minutes. So I know that we have a bunch of more questions that came through. So let's kind of keep it moving. I need like a minute at the
Okay.
end, Daphne, just to share contact information.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Another question. So is there another way of demonstrating the 150K instead of the 990?
no,
because it's a smaller organization, 150K, what profit and loss, balance sheet, what,
mm-mm.
you can try, maybe reach out to the partner you're thinking of applying for, offline, and let's maybe brainstorm that a little bit. I don't think I've seen
No.
that. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that. Oh, you know, but there's, you know, maybe not the 990, but was there a financial audit that took
Yeah,
place?
financial audits, they take
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, maybe
They
there's
do.
that. It's gotta be official, you know, so um I don't see there being a workaround around that, but if you think that there is, then reach out.
Okay. Next,
So could you go over the restrictions for staff expenses again? Are staff expenses covered only the hours that staff are engaged in facilitating or receiving training, or can they cover hours spent by staff to work together with the consultant more widely?
Yes. Yeah, there's flexibility there, definitely. We're not going to get that down to the nitty gritty. We're going to take your, you know, your word for it, how much you're working with the consultant, and how much time will be allocated under this grant. And it's a 6-month grant. It's a very fast grant, as you can ask some of the returning grantees. So we are going to take you know, what you say, and if there's any red flags, you know, we'll let you know, but we're gonna defer to you of how much time
30%
you've
of
worked
the
with
grant.
okay.
Oh,
It just,
we
yeah,
have-
exactly, don't go over the 30%.
Right, 30%, that's it, that's all I
Yeah.
say, 30%.
Yeah.
We do have one more question. So for
Okay.
the example budget, can you walk through the ED role, given limitations of how this can be used for staff salary?
I think I don't-
Example budget, can you walk through the, okay, so the example budget, do you want to go up to the example budget? Ju, I think you were in control. Thank
I know
you.
you're short
Okay.
on time. Yeah. And I asked
Right.
that question. I wonder if it's just related how you walked us through about that time, about if it could be used for staff first working with the consultant.
Yes.
That's really what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. The short answer is yes. You know, it's working with the consultant, or you say one of your employees is working with the consultant and you want to cover another employee who's covering that person's
Covering
role,
that consultant, then you can.
then you can put that
Right.
employee on, because that employee is covering for another employee that's working with the consultant. So there's flexibility there, you know, just like Yvonne said, don't go over the 30% cap, but there's flexibility
Okay.
there. You know, because the ED has limitations and you need to put different staff on there. Then that's allowed.
Okay.
This is our contact info. I know Ambrosia, this was yours. I'm just for the sake of time, this is our contact information. You can contact any of us with any questions. Again, FAQ, everything, all the stuff is online. If you want the consultant list, please reach out to one of these folks that you're planning to apply to. And we're not sharing the slide deck, but we are going to be, again, putting the recording up for one of these briefings up on the website. If you have further questions, we have 2 more additional briefings, one this
Exactly.
Wednesday and next
Wednesday.
So
The
2 more. If you come up with additional questions as you're doing your application, feel free to roll through and we'll be here to answer them. I think that's it. Thanks everybody for joining. Really look forward to receiving your applications and being able to support the great work that you're all doing. Thanks everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.